Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland. Here I am on the Grassmarket in Edinburgh. You see that cross on the floor behind me? That is the site of the gallows, which stood here for centuries until 1784. And so all sorts of malfeasants were put to death here. They could be executed for something so trivial as grand larceny. Stealing a horse was definitely punishable with death. And sometimes it was infanticide. Women who gave birth outside wedlock sometimes killed their babies because they felt they couldn't bring them up. Or also it was considered such a disgrace to have a child outside marriage. For a woman it was, not for a man. Anyway, there's a memorial here saying on this spot these men died for their Protestant faith in relation to the Covenanters. Well, who were they? Go back to King Charles I. He ascended the throne in 1625. He'd been born in Dunfermline Palace in November 1600. So he moved to England at the age of 3. And he certainly believed in the divine right of kings like his father before him. His father had indeed written the True Law Free Monarchies. And his father had made the Church of Scotland episcopal. That's to say, he'd brought in bishops and archbishops. And Scotland had had a Protestant revolution in the 1550s. And the Church of Scotland had been firmly Protestant. James I had pushed it back the other way. I call him James I, of course in Scotland he's James VI. Anyway, so then he seemed to have some secret flirtation with Catholicism, James I, perhaps keeping communications open with the Pope, despite actually repressing Catholics, playing a bit of a double game. Anyway, he died. Charles I came in. He'd married Henrietta Maria, a French princess, and France was of course one of the leading Roman Catholic countries. And some people said, well, if his wife's Catholic, is he Catholic? His children were brought up as Catholic. Catholic priests can be executed in England and Scotland. But he's got Catholic priests in his palace to minister to his wife, and that's an exception. Will he turn us back to Roman Catholicism? Anyway, he appointed an Archbishop of Canterbury, William Laud, who wrote the Book of Common Prayer. And Laud, like Charles I, believed in Arminianism from this Catholic prelate, worshipped the Lord in the beauty of holiness. And so Arminianism is not Roman Catholicism, but it looks like it. It's ceremonial. It believes in having priests in colourful robes and sacraments and all the rest of it. Definitely having bishops and archbishops. This Book of Common Prayer was introduced in Scotland, in England, and then imposed on Scotland, despite there being no consultation, and the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland saying we're against it. They met without his permission, but still it was imposed. And so there were all sorts of rebellions here. Some people, they signed the National Covenant, a covenant being like a contract, an agreement that they would obey the king on all matters except this one, because if it came to a straight out disagreement between God and the king, they obviously had to take the side of God, who was the supreme authority from whom all monarchs derived their just power. And there was the Prayer Rebellion in Scotland. I won't go into it, but it led to the English Civil War, the wars in the whole British Isles. But anyway, Charles I was killed. Charles II came back from the Netherlands. He'd made an attempted comeback in Scotland, been defeated in 1650, and he'd said, right, my father was dead wrong, I accept no Book of Common Prayer, the Church of Scotland can go back to the way it was before. He made an engagement with them. They were called engagers, those who agreed with him, those who trusted him, saying, Church of Scotland, you're Presbyterian. You'll have, so presbyteros in ancient Greek is an elder. The ordinary churchgoers, men only in those days, women went to church but weren't allowed to vote. The men who went to church were allowed to elect elders, not necessarily old, but they're called elders. And they have a council in each local church, and they're obviously ministers who've got a special religious education. And the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland will have moderators, a moderator from each region, but also elders, ordinary people, laymen, could be me, I'm not a member of the Church of Scotland, who does whatever ordinary job and is elected as an elder, and they govern the church, the congregants. So it's not episcopal, as in episcopus is bishop in ancient Greek. So power starts at the bottom with the ordinary people and flows upwards, not power starting at the top with a king appointing archbishops and bishops and going downwards. And for monarchs in the 17th century, this set a dangerous precedent. It was a little bit like democracy, so we can't possibly have that. Anyway, so Charles II said he'd forgiven his father's enemies and all that. He's restored in May 1660. He promptly broke his promises. He hunted down the regicides, those who'd been involved in the death of his father, and had them executed. Indeed, Cromwell was dug up 2 years after he died, put on trial, He failed to answer the charges against him. I suppose he was mute of malice. So found guilty and sentenced to death again, as he had already died. But that was that. But also in Scotland, Charles II, he reneged on his solemn undertaking, and he purged himself to the Scots nation, and he brought back the prayer book and imposed it anyway. And so somebody said, we're not having that, and people were secretly meeting in conventicles, secretly conducting Presbyterian worship in the old style, and so people caught doing that were executed, and so over 100 of them were executed in this spot there. Their names are known. It was going on from 1661 up to 1688. When William of Orange came, he was accepted as King of Scots as well as King of England and King of Ireland. Remember, Ireland, Scotland and England, they were all separate kingdoms at the time, but they had the same monarch. Only 1707, England and Wales and Scotland all unite, form the United Kingdom of Great Britain. And so in 1881, we in Ireland became part of that United Kingdom. I know most of Ireland's left it now, but that's that. So that's what the Martyrs of the Grassmarket are about. You may have heard of the Orange Order, founded in Ireland in 1795. Initially it was only for members of the Church of Ireland. Then it was extended to all Protestants, could be a Presbyterian, a Methodist, a Baptist, Plymouth Brethren, Disciples of Christ, whatever. And the Orange Order exists in Scotland as well. It's not as big here as it is in Northern Ireland. In fact, it's declining there too. But they have an annual march here to commemorate the Martyrs of the Grassmarket. And I suppose that many Orangemen are blissfully unaware they are commemorating one group of Protestants who were killed by another. By the Church of Scotland, which was Episcopal. Some people had broken away from the Church of Scotland in the 1660s, saying we don't accept it, it's not properly Protestant, we must have it really Presbyterian. Anyway, after William of Orange came back, the Church of Scotland became Presbyterian again, having elected elders, having a moderator for each region, going to the General Assembly, and there's a moderator of the General Assembly. He serves for 1 year, and only once, new moderator each year. So that's the system of the Church of Scotland down to this day. So it's functioned in a Presbyterian manner, and obviously Presbyterian Church has been founded around the world in imitation of the Church of Scotland. And indeed in Cork, where I come from, there's a Presbyterian church, and it was commonly called the Scots Church. The Church of Scotland has a few churches abroad. Let me see, I've seen there's one in Mumbai, there's one in Rome, there are at least 2 in London, I'm not sure where else. But people of the Church of Scotland who go abroad, they often join Presbyterian congregations elsewhere, or indeed the Congregationalist Church, which is run on the same lines. So that's that.